Here he goes again. That's huge. That's on the roof.
Welcome to Dean at Stumps, the cricket encyclopedia.
The Sri Lankans are stunned. The Zimbabweans are jubilant. Look what that means to them. The first ever series victory against Sri Lanka.
Hello and welcome to the Dean at Stumps podcast. I'm Dean Duplessis and it is great to be with you as always. Now, although the World Cup is in full swing, Zimbabwe are about to embark on a tour of the Netherlands and of Ireland, where they'll be playing a couple of one-day matches and then T20 matches against the Netherlands, and then 3 one-day internationals and 3 T20 matches against Ireland. And I was able to catch up with pace bowler Kyle Jarvis, who says that despite the fact that he wishes they were at the World Cup, the team are still relishing the opportunity of once again going on tour and playing.
Yeah, we've had a good month camp and really looking forward to getting over and playing some games overseas. Obviously, that's where all the fun is in games, not so much in the nets.
I know that the last time Zimbabwe were on tour was November, but it feels like an absolute age ago when you went to Bangladesh. You must be happy to actually be hitting the road and to be playing in slightly foreign conditions as well. Having said that, how foreign would island conditions be to what you would have played at in Lancashire or in England?
Yeah, for sure. It'll be nice to get over there. Unfortunately, it's not at a World Cup where I feel we should be, but you know what, there's still games, we still got to go there and win. So I've never played in Netherlands or Ireland, so I'm not really sure what to expect, but just looking forward to it. And I'm sure the team's looking really good and looking to put in some positive performances.
Unfortunately, the World Cup topic will never ever be taken care of. It'll never be put to bed. Are you still hurting after what happened, Kyle?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're always hurt. Unfortunately, that just wasn't our day, but I think we proved pretty convincingly in the last series after that 4-0 win that we're a better side than UAE. But unfortunately on the day, a few factors were against us. One being the rain, the duck with Lewis, and I think the UAE had their best game of the series. And we just lost by 2 runs. So that'll always hurt. We're not there. We've got to get over that. Nothing's going to change that. So our focus really is qualifying for the T20 World Cup. So everything now is pretty much just a build up to that. Those qualifiers getting held in Dubai in October.
There's actually a bit of a rumour that it might be moved from Dubai to Zimbabwe. I don't know whether you heard about that, but how nice would that be to once again, I suppose, redeem yourselves? Not that you have to redeem yourselves, but you may feel that you could redeem yourselves in front of a home crowd and then this time round qualify for the T20 World Cup. I mean, it's just speculation, so nothing has been confirmed, but wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, I've not really heard that rumour, but whatever it is in front of us, I think we just need to qualify for that World Cup, and I think the 50 over World Cup will be forgotten about soon after. So, yeah.
Jav, I want to talk a bit about you. You had the privilege of playing county cricket under a Colpack deal from 2013 up until the end of, 2017, yeah, absolutely. I mean, what was it like? It was a bit of a mystery because we saw you do really well against Bangladesh in 2013, and then the next thing, off you went and you were playing county cricket for Lancashire. Nobody really knew about it. Well, certainly, the fans in it didn't know a great deal about it. How did that come about? There was a few personal issues before then. And I just felt, I think I was 23 at the time, and a really good opportunity came in front of me to go play county cricket, which is right up there with international cricket. And yeah, I just took my opportunity, went over there, and really enjoyed myself. I know I'm a better cricketer now than I was before I went there. So yeah, I had a brilliant 4 or 5 years, and I've come back to international cricket again, a far better player than I was before. After you played and tasted a bit of success with county cricket, what made you decide, why did you come back to play international cricket knowing that you'll probably play a great deal less of cricket than what you would have done playing county cricket? What made you make the decision to come back?
Obviously Zimbabwe will always be home, and at the time there were some exciting things going on, and the MD at the time, a guy, Faisal Hasnain, got hold of myself and Brennan through our agents and put something on the table, and we thought it was a really good time to come back, and we wanted, obviously our main focus was helping Zim qualify for the World Cup. So yeah, I guess I've always got the opportunity to play county cricket still as an overseas in between international duties, which I'm still looking to pursue.
So yeah, I guess I can have the best of both worlds now.
And you said that you came back a much better cricketer, and of that there is no doubt. One of the cricketers who you mentioned a lot in your early interviews, somebody who I guess a lot of Zimbabwe fans won't know, but I'd like you to tell us a bit about, is Glenn Chappell. You mentioned him a lot of times in your very first interviews that you had on the various social media platforms. How did he influence you and help you?
Yeah, if you look at Glenn Chappell's record, it says it all. When I started at Lancashire, he was still a player, and then he became captain, and then captain/coach, and then he got the head coach job after Ashley Giles. Just as a player, I've never seen, I think probably bar Jimmy Anderson, I've never played with anyone quite as skillful and good as Glenn was. I mean, he was 40 years old, probably still bowling 85 mile an hour, and putting it exactly where he wanted to. So he was just I think he was very unlucky at the time not to play a lot more international cricket, but he was a great help there.
Did the likes of Jimmy Anderson, Glenn Chappell, did they take you under their wings? And tell us about what you learned, because I guess you, Chappell, Anderson are very similar in pace, very similar in what you do with the ball when the ball is new and even when it gets a bit older. So did those experienced campaigners take you aside and, I suppose, show you the art of swing bowling in England?
Yeah, I think I went over there thinking I was a swing bowler, which I pretty much am not. I'm more of a seam bowler. So that was one of the things I figured out pretty quickly in England. I went over there thinking I could swing the ball, where I found I had a lot less control when I was trying to swing it as much as I was. So I changed a few things, tinkered with my action a little bit, and I'm more just trying to hit the strings and hit the same spot. More of a Glenn McGrath type bowler. Not a lot of swing, more sort of using the seam.
Okay, and I'm glad that you actually explained that a bit, but just for somebody finding their way and getting to understand the game of cricket, explain what a Jimmy Anderson swing bowler would be as opposed to a Glenn McGrath seam bowler.
Jimmy obviously presents a perfect seam, and he can bowl in swing, out swing at will. Whereas seam bowler, you're just more trying to use the strings, try and get the seam upright, and that way it goes either way. You don't really know what it's doing.
Yeah, because you're getting your movement off the pitch.
The movement's off the pitch, and it can be quite variable. So that's more the way I go about it. Try and get my seam upright, as opposed to sort of at a slight angle like what Jimmy would do. It takes a lot of skill to swing a ball the way he does so consistently, because the amount he's moving it, if you started too straight or too wide and you don't get that swing you're looking for, that's obviously where you're going to leak a lot of runs. So it's an art not many people can do anymore, and he's just the finest exponent of it, probably him and Dale Steyn, but Jimmy more so when it comes to swing.
And if you don't get it right, I guess more often than not, if the ball isn't swinging, you're basically bowling it on the batsman's pads more often than not. Would that be correct?
Yeah, for sure. If you're trying to bowl away swing, and you want to be starting it on the stump, so if it doesn't swing, you're getting clipped through the leg side, and if you're trying to bowl in swing and you wide outside off and it doesn't swing, you're getting hit through the covers. So it's a very difficult art to get right. Yeah.
I guess from a Zimbabwean perspective, Heath Streak would have been one of the better ones at that.
Yeah, Heath was a very good bowler. Obviously, he was a good swing bowler. I think, like you've seen in the last few years, unfortunately, white kookaburras, for whatever reason, they don't really swing anymore. Maybe for the first 2 overs of a game, you're going to get a bit of swing, where before, I think in the 90s, you got a lot more swing out of that white ball. When you think back to Chaminda Vas, Wasim Akram, those sort of guys, they used to get a lot of swing, where I think now it doesn't move as much as it used to.
Why is that, Jarvie, do you think? I mean, I have no idea, but as a bowler yourself, what do you think that's down to?
I don't know. I really don't know. People have tried to discuss it. I guess it's a change in the leather, or I don't know.
Would it not be a bad idea to also go back to using one ball as opposed to 2 balls? So, for example, when the ball does get a bit older, the bowlers who do or who are able to reverse swing the ball can then get a bit of reverse swing going again, because you're operating with 2 balls. By the time your 50 overs are up, you've got one ball that's 25 overs and another which is 25 overs. So, just for that fraction of movement that you will initially get, nothing else really happens in terms of the bowler getting a say, really, do you?
Yeah, for sure. It's a massive help if you can get a ball reversing and you can bowl that at the death.
definitely cuts down the amount of runs you're going to go for. But I think no one goes into a stadium and pays to watch bowlers bowling well anymore. I think it's more to see runs on the board. So I think that's the way they've gone about it, which is fine. So we all have the same ball to bowl with, and yeah.
Jav, I hear many commentators, and predominantly former fast bowlers, Michael Holding and obviously those great fast bowlers and good commentators, emphasize the importance of genuine pace. Now, how do you feel about that? Because you can get close enough to 140 when your rhythm is good, 140 k's an hour. But how important is it to have bowlers who can run in and consistently bowl in excess of 140 k's an hour?
Yeah, obviously it is a major help. There's only a few bowlers, I think, in the world who are consistently doing that. Rabada, Stark, Bumrah, those sort of guys. Of course, pace without accuracy is nothing, because I think at 140 you're still not scaring batters. So I'd much rather be a skillful bowler at 135 than someone who bowls 145 and is all over the place.
And your dad was he? We assume that because he obviously played for the country and was an incredibly accurate left-arm seamer. How much of an influence did your dad, Malcolm, have on your defining your career? Fine, you're a right-arm fast bowler. He was left-arm seam, but did he have a lot to do with your bowling action and motivating you and so on?
Yeah, he was always there at the games growing up. He never really pressured me into playing or forcing me to be, try and be someone. But he was always there, and he helped with a few things in my action growing up. I think once you're about 14, 15 years old, your action doesn't change very much. But yeah, like I said, he never really pressured me into forcing me to play. So yeah, he was great.
I'd imagine just ticking all the boxes now on the tour of the Netherlands and Islands and trying to play cricket to the best of your ability and winning as many games as you possibly can would be the objective, Kyle.
Yeah, for sure. Whenever you go on a tour, you go there to win. So we're looking to do the same thing. I think we got one over them at the qualifiers. I think we beat them pretty convincingly. So yeah, looking to go over and do that again. I don't think I've ever played the Netherlands, the Dutch team. So we're also looking forward to that.
All right, that is Kyle Jarvis in conversation with me as Zimbabwe prepared to go on their eagerly anticipated tour of the Netherlands and Ireland. Good to see the Chevrons back in action again. And of course, we would have wanted them at the World Cup, but you can't always get what you want. As disappointing and as heartbreaking as that still is. Right now, next up, I was able to catch up with a man who actually doesn't need a great deal of introduction a couple of weeks ago. Very prolific top-order batsman for South Africa, left-handed batsman who made his debut in 1993. Has a test best of 275 against England when South Africa followed on in Durban in 1999. Has a best of 188 not out against the UAE in the 1996 World Cup, and of course did some incredibly good things as a coach as well. Coached India to World Cup victory in 2011. Also coached South Africa to the world's #1 ranked test team a year later. I am of course referring to Gary Kirsten, and I first of all started off by talking to him a bit about the recently concluded IPL, where he coached the Royal Challengers Bangalore, and although it didn't go particularly well for Gary Kirsten, he still enjoyed his time there. So, how disappointing was it for Kirsten for the team not to do as well as he would have liked?
Yeah, I mean, not a huge disappointment. That's life, and you give it your best shot and move on. So it's not everything in my life, but it certainly is an important component to it. But after losing our first 6 games, we then got our act together and got 11 out of a potential 15 points, which I was really happy with. So we kind of turned the season around and ended up 1 point away from the playoffs. So, to do that after losing your first 6 games, I think is an amazing effort.
Gary, you've done some incredibly good stuff in terms of coaching. It seems to me it's something that you absolutely thrive on. You remind me a little bit of the late Bob Wilmer, who was your coach in the 1990s, just in the passion that you have for coaching. Would that be an accurate assessment?
I do enjoy it. I think it's great working with young players and, having had the privilege of a long playing career, to share knowledge and to try and help young players be the best version of themselves is something that I enjoy getting involved in. And then obviously to work with teams as well and get teams to optimize out on the potential it has is always there's always something that's exciting. But I'm also very aware that there are lots of unpredictables in sport, and that's why sport is sport. Is that you're not always going to get the results that you are looking for, and you certainly try to give it your best shot. But in the long run, you kind of hope that you have more success than failure, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. And the form of T20 cricket, this format, it's something that has taken the world by storm. A lot of people are playing it. How important is T20 cricket and the IPL cricket, in your opinion, towards the growth and development of cricket, generally speaking, worldwide?
Well, I think it's a great format. I've thoroughly enjoyed being a part of it. I think it's a very complicated format, requires a lot of not only just basic skill, but I think it requires a lot of thought around how to carve out wins for your team. And the levels of skill that are required now have become massive, as we have seen. So it's a very important component of the game. It's the ultimate entertainment version of the game. It's high energy, high octane, full on momentum from ball one virtually. So it's very exciting to be a part of, and I never played the game myself, but certainly would like to have given it a go.
I reckon you would have been very good at the top of the order, manoeuvring the balls into gaps and playing those shots square of the wicket that you used to play so very well back in the 1990s and early 2000s.
I wonder sometimes. I don't know if I wasn't able to get the ball to the boundary that much. So anyway, but maybe I would have learnt along the way.
You would have. I can tell you would have. Certainly remember watching you at Western Province and how you used to play the ball down to third man all the time, and then suddenly, as you were exposed to more and more international cricket, I remember one innings in particular in India when you got your back-to-back hundreds in 1996, a couple of very audacious hook shots of Javagal Srinath at Eden Gardens. So it would have come together.
You remember more than I do.
Gary, you've been privileged to work with some incredible players, the likes of Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, Rahul Dravid, all of these who had a part to play in success. Sachin Tendulkar, obviously a very big part of the 2011 World Cup, and Virat Kohli, well, I mean, we all know about him, and he's still set to do great things in world cricket. But what is it like trying to get inside the minds of these iconic superstars? I mean, they must be incredible to work with at all times. Sometimes maybe a bit difficult, but most times very pleasant, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to try and understand what makes them tick. And the one thing that I have worked out is that everyone is very different, They're different drivers, different reasons for the success that they have. And it's great to learn into that space and understand that. I think the idea or the thought of having a one-size-fits-all approach for all these individuals to get them to thrive is outdated and prehistoric. That you now realize that every player requires different drivers to get him to the top of his game. So it's great to understand that from each of these players and what makes them tick.
Give us what is it like working, or what was it like working with Sachin Tendulkar? What is it like working with Virat Kohli?
Working with Sachin Tendulkar was a treat. He's a professor in his game, and what I really liked about him was he was always wanting to engage with other people around his game to get their views and their thoughts. And he was very good at that. Someone like Virat Kohli has got more self-belief than anyone else I know. So, to work with these guys and understand what actually are their drivers is great to spend time with them.
Gary, I was privileged enough to have a chat with Alan Donald, one of your teammates who you played alongside with for many years for the Proteas. And in terms of captaincy, you played a little under Kepler Wessels as captaincy when you made your Test debut in 1993, but the majority of your international career was under Hansie Cronje and a bit of Sean Pollock and then a tiny bit of Graham Smith as well. Are you able to tell us the differences of playing alongside or under Kepler Wessels, very, very strong leader, Graham Smith, very strong leader, and the late Hansie Cronje, who also had his way of going about leading the teams?
Yeah, I mean, Kepler was my captain at the beginning of my career, and I think the value he added was to get us to understand how hard Test cricket was, and that, you know, there's no one's going to suffer fools gladly. You have to show your mettle and your worth mentally to be able to make it at that level. So I think he gave us a good understanding of that, and certainly fast-tracked us into performance at international level. For me, Hansi was a massive component to my career because he really backed me and believed in my ability. And I really needed someone, you know, that was prepared to show me that I was capable of playing the game at the highest level. And I got that in him. He was very important to my career. And then I had Graham towards the end of my career where, you know, I felt as a young player then, he had this naturalness about his leadership. He just kind of oozed it, and, you know, he was almost like a born leader. And I was amazed at his oratory skills, how he was able to move people with a motivational talk in a very short space of time. So he had a very natural way about him as a leader.
And of course, now with the World Cup coming up, obviously something to look forward to. Do you have any part, any role to play in the World Cup, or are you just going to be watching it from the comfort of your couch?
I'm taking an under-13 township team over for 10 days on the 14th to the 24th of June. I'm involved in 5 schools in the Khayelitsha township, and this is the first kind of fully fledged township team that has gone to the World Cup. So we're very excited by the journey, and I can't wait for the tour to start. I think it's going to be awesome for these little kids to watch the Protea heroes playing 3 matches, one against Afghanistan, one against New Zealand, and one against Pakistan at Lords, and then to play some matches as well. So that's a project that's very close to my heart, and spending quite a bit of time at the moment just organising it.
Absolutely. And I mean, for these youngsters to, as you say, to see Kagiso Rabada in action, I mean, everybody, you know, looks up to Kagiso Rabada, Dale Steyn, and it must be massive. I mean, I would imagine that's something that you would have liked to have done as a youngster had the apartheid and isolation not been in place. You would have liked, for example, to have seen, you know, Peter Pollock, Graham Pollock, and Mike Proctor, against the world's very best. So I can just imagine what it must be like for these youngsters. And what is your thoughts on the format of the World Cup, Gary? Are you happy with the strength versus strength 10-team tier, or would you have liked to have seen a few more teams in the World Cup?
I believe that World Cups are about providing a platform for young, aspiring cricketing nations to show what they're made of. So I think it's tough on some of those teams that miss out, even though they might have ODI status, that they miss out on this iconic event. For me, I always thought of World Cups as events where. And that's World Cups across all sports where, you know, some of those lesser teams get a chance to put their skills in the highest competition against the best. But saying that, I love the format of 9 games and then a semi-final and a final. I think it's the fairest way of identifying who the best teams are at the World Cup. And then moving them into the knockouts.
So as we conclude this conversation, something that I love doing with all the people I interview, Gary, give us briefly some of the highlights of your international career, your Test and One-Day career, which was a very good career. As I said, that I loved the way you started off as being a relatively conservative batsman, but then you grew into you came out of your shell and grew into your skin and started to play some magnificent strokes, particularly square in the offside was always very pleasing, even for a blind man like me to observe. But give us some of the highlights, Gary. There must have been many that you will look back with a great deal of fondness.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, life moves on, so I've kind of forgotten largely about the specific events. I think the thing that stands out for me is probably the opportunity to play, you know, 100 tests for South Africa, which was beyond my wildest dreams when I started out. And I didn't even think I'd play first class cricket. So to end up having that opportunity was always great. And I think my dad always installed me as a youngster that, the currency of batting is hundreds. You've got to learn how to score hundreds. And once you start doing that and doing it regularly, you can go anywhere in the game as a batsman. So that really helped me to understand that. And it took me a while to get my first 100 at school. But once I got it, I learned that you could score more and more and more just by building a good plan around how you want to bat. And I think I always had quite a lot of structure to my batting, and through that structure, it gave me the consistency that I needed to go up the levels. I had many times of bad form where I couldn't score runs, and it was sometimes quite frustrating. But I always had the determination that I knew what it took to score runs against the best bowlers in the world.
Of course, your brother Peter would have had quite a big influence in your development as well, I would imagine.
Not really, because he was away a lot.
Right.
He was 13 years older than me. So by the time I was developing as a player, he was already on the road playing professional cricket. But I think we had a great connection later on, where he was still playing at the end of his career and I was kind of starting out. And we played some internationals together. And, I think it was I really enjoyed that time. It was great to have an older brother kind of guide you through that process. So it really did help then.
And it was quite similar to the War Brothers and indeed the Flower Brothers of Zimbabwe. In fact, similarities to the Flower Brothers, because in the Australia series of when Australia toured South Africa in 1994, the two of you opened the batting in the one-days with a great deal of success against the likes of McGrath, McDermott and whoever else played as well. So that would have been quite nice for you starting your career and for Peter ending his career as well, I would imagine.
We did have a decent run together, and I enjoyed that time. It wasn't long, but it was because it was at the end of his career, but it certainly helped me catapult my one-day career. And as I said, it was great having him there to help out. But it was good. It was good when we did have that success. We opened the batting together for 15, 20 odd games, and I really enjoyed that. Cups to keep that expectation nice and low. I think it's going to be an advantage to the team.
Well, that is Gary Kirsten talking about coaching and his international career. You've been listening to Dean at Stumps podcast. Don't forget that you can subscribe on YouTube. You just go to YouTube, do a search for Dean du Plessis, subscribe, and you can listen to fantastic interviews with the likes of Alan Donald, Jason Gillespie, Adam Gilchrist, Andy Flower, and quite a few more as well. And if you would like to hear about the life of a commentator, why don't you do yourself a favor and listen to an incredibly nice chat I had with ABC radio commentator Jim Maxwell. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back again pretty soon. But until then, keep enjoying the World Cup. Bye-bye.